Museo de Bellas Artes de Virginia, Estados Unidos.
This is one of the most important and beautiful paintings.
It's been a pleasure to be part of this round the world tour.
The centerpiece.
Dear viewers from China and abroad, dear viewers, welcome to the live stream and welcome to our show. I'm actually the director of China's National Museum, Wang Chunfa. As noted by General Secretary Xi Jinping, COVID-19 has proved once again that the humankind is shared the same destiny. So after the pandemic, China is developed a ever-deepening bond with other different countries with a very dynamic cooperations. So that's the reason why we are actually opening up today's session. And China's National Museum is initiating this event of joining hands in hands museum and me, and this initiation has been echoed by some of the top museums across the whole world, and we got the answers from over 16 different national museums, and I believe all of them is going to give you a brief introductions of their national museums, and that is a very good show to their treasure grooves, and this is also providing us a new way of thinking to the future development of the museums across the world. The day before yesterday, I actually received the ministers of the culture and treasure, and he actually sent me a congratulation letters. After today, we are launching this Global Museums Director's Choice. On behalf of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, I congratulate the successful opening of today's event. Up to now, COVID-19 is still wreaking havoc across the globe. We need more encouragement. The National Museum of China is launching initiations in this stage, and it is actually getting the answers from 16 different national museums, and they are telling different stories of their treasures, and these treasures are very good demonstrations of the nation's culture and the very essence of the world culture. We are sharing the beauty together with no boundaries or no obstacles for the communications. The global museum industry is joining hands together to tackle with the difficulties, and with today's 2020 hand-in-hand museum and me, it is actually reflecting the different dynamics of different cultures, and we are writing a chapter for the shared future of mankind. I'm looking forward for the in-depth collaborations for the museum and culture and exhibition sector. I wish this event success. Gu Heping, Minister of Culture and Tourism, People's Republic of China. Indeed, COVID-19 pandemic is wreaking havoc for the museum industry, we have experienced unprecedented challenges. National Museum of China has showed all kinds of the online activities, and we have also provided over 14 different online exhibitions. We have created the first aviation's 5G online exhibition. I believe that cloud exhibition is helping us to surpass the boundaries of time and space to let audience in every corner of the world understand the beauties of the treasures. The ever-deepening understandings for the international culture cannot be separated with the importance of the different treasures. And today, our target is going to present you several different treasures, and we have different features for today's event. We covered several different countries: Britain, South Africa, America, Australia, and Argentina. Over 16 different museums is participating in today's event, and it is also of high levels. The museum's director is going to select one of their best treasures to introduce to the audience, and they are also adopting the state-of-the-art technology. And by this cross-country, cross-border live streaming, we are also working together with CMG Group to provide you over 60 minutes special editions for National Museum of China. This edition is being presented by the HK configurations. It is also going to bring you a new experience of the animations. Through connectings with televisions and new medias, we could present our museums to audience across the world. Without leaving at your front door, you could still enjoy the beauties of the museum across the whole world. And this is also helping for the creative development of the museum. Through these rallies across the world, we are also spreading the determinations against COVID-19 to museums across the world. Starting from today, every 2 museums is going to launch a special event for the national museums. I think that it is actually included the Chinese National Museums directors connecting and dialogue with other different directors in other different countries. And we are all going to introduce the treasures that we think and we selected. I believe this event online is going to help us reach every corners in the world. Today is officially launch these online initiations. Let's tell the stories of the museums and let's preserve human cultures. And let's demonstrate the beauties of human civilizations. Hand in hand, we are together. Now I officially announce the openings of these events. Please watch the promos for today's event.
好，朋友们，我们现在来到的是本次活动的第一站
Welcome
中国国家博物馆。
Dear
首先，
viewers,
我给大家
we
介
are
绍一下中国国家
at
博物
the
馆。
first station
中国国
of
家博物
the
馆
event.
代表国
I'm
家
going to give you a brief introduction of the National Museum of China.
阐释
It is the peak for the Chinese treasures in terms of the exhibitions and demonstrations, and it is a good reflection of the Chinese cultures,
国家
the ancient Chinese cultures, and also the revolution Chinese cultures. It
中国国家
is
博物馆的
the
前身可以追溯
most
到
prestigious institution for collecting treasures, and its predecessors can go back to the 1952 when we formed China's Historic Museum. In the year 2003, the China's Historic Museum and the China Modern Museums was combined and integrated into the National Museum of China. In the year 2011, the National Museum in China opened up to the public, covering a space of 11,000 square meters. It is of enriching collections, and it is home to over 6,000 different national treasures of high technological, culture, and beauty values. Among the 140 million collections, it included the ancient architects, modern architects, ancient books, and also all kinds of the porcelains. They are the witness of over 5,000 years history in China. We have special exhibitions, permanent exhibitions, and also the special editions, among which the route to rejuvenation of ancient China and also the route to rejuvenation of modern China are the permanent exhibition. We have the permanent exhibitions, including the exhibitions for the Buddha structures, jade, and also the stone sculptures in the Song dynasties. We have also upheld all kinds of exhibitions, inviting the foreign museum to display their cultures and exhibitions. For the recent years, the National Museum of China has put forward thousands of high-quality exhibitions, attracting tens of the millions of visitors to the museum. It is the most visited museum in the world. In the year 2018, there are over 61 million visitors, creating a new height of our populations. Based on the principles of openness and inclusiveness, National Museum of China was holding the strategic partnership with different universities and institutions, China and abroad. We are shouldering the responsibilities to boom the ties and the connections with different platforms, and we have formed the BRICS Country Museum Alliance. And we have also upheld the Museum Directors Forum across the world. During this journey, we are demonstrating the glamours of the Chinese cultures and spreading the Chinese culture and showcase the unique Chinese treasures. Come to the National Museum of China, learn from the National Museum of China. When you embed yourself in the National Museum of China, you will feel the very essence of Chinese nation and Chinese spirit. You will also feel the everlasting spirit of Chinese culture, and you can also feel the interwoven glamour of cultures across the world. I also believe that you can feel the indigenous spirit of the Chinese people. In the National Museum of China, you can see the history and futures of the Chinese. Today, I'm going to introduce you 5 of my favorite treasures. The first treasure I'm going to introduce you is Tao Yingding. It was digged in Huaxian County, Taipingzhuang of Shanxi Province. The height is 23 centimeters. It belongs to the Yangshao culture, 5,000 years ago from today. It is also a representation of the bird and agriculture cultures. We all know that for the Yangshao culture, the majority of them is ceramics, and these ceramics is used to hold water. Some of the scholars believe this eagle trope itself is actually a pan to cook. And according to the historical record, we don't have this symbolic special kitchenware. So when this trope or when this cooking vessel was born in 5,000 years ago, we believe a special or a small group of people generally formulate the elite group of that society. They are using some of the symbolic wares to demonstrate their unique social status. The archaeologists believe that the owners for these eagle cooking vessels is using this vessel to demonstrate his or her high social status. The shape of this eagle vessel is born from a black eagle with a very lively spirit. I believe that this is a ware with its usage functions and its beauty. We could see its two eyes looking forward and its buckles, and it just looks like an eagle walking forward, or it just represents an elderly man looking forward. We could still see the muscles on this cooking vessel, the two strong legs supporting it is actually formulating a tripod together with its tails. For one part, it can hold the food family. For another part, we can actually fire between the spaces of these three pots. I believe that this is actually a cooking vessel. It is also serving as a plate. In 1997, archaeologists have started the second expeditions where this eagle vessel was found. At that spot, they had found some of the bones of eagles and dogs. That is to say, at the times, eagles are still quite abundant in the natures and the skies. That is the reason why our ancestors had the opportunity to observe them and carve their symbols into this vessel. So I believe that the vessel is being sharpened with a very fine tool. That is a very good representation of the craftsmanship of our ancestors. We believe our ancestors have a very good selections of choosing the ceramics and choosing the right earth to build the ceramics. We all know about eagle. It is the king of all the birds, renowned for the heights it can fly, and revered by the people. The respect for eagle is a global phenomenon. No matter for the pharaohs in ancient Egypt, eagle, or in the ancient Chinese culture, eagle is a symbol of the royal family. In Arab world, you could see many of the national anthems or the national symbols is drawn from eagles. In Russia and Prussia, many of these countries, we will see a lot of patterns drawn from eagle. After today, we could see that in many ethnic groups in the northern part of China, they still revere the eagle as their ancestors. There's another story. When we were digging out this eagle vessel, at that time, there is a farmer or peasants who were plotting in his field, and at that time he felt that he was clapping into something, and he felt it might be a stone. He might dig a. So once it was digging out, this eagle-shaped vessel deeply impressed him, and there are other different scattered pieces and debris. So when the peasants saw this vessel, he brought it to his home as a container to feed his chicken. A year later, the archaeologist team from Peking University went to that special small village and they found. So the peasants was showing to the archaeologist team of Peking University, and it was a huge shock to the archaeologist team. According to their special observations, they believe it is a ware from the Yangshao culture, and they were deeply surprised by this eagle vessel. And from where the eagle vessel was digged, we find another coffin 5,300 years far away from us. We also find other different ceramic or pottery made materials or wares. I believe that this eagle vessel, back in the year 1959, it entered into the National Museum of China. In 1993, when China was applying for the Olympic, at that time, we selected 9 different national treasures for exhibition. At that time, Mr. Samaranki has viewed this as one of the most important representative of Chinese culture, representing the 5,000 years history of China. It is a mix of modern structures, modern fields with the ancient and simple lines. I believe that it is one of our Olympic ambassadors. So the second treasures that I'm going to introduce you is a copperware of the rhinos, rhino-shaped copperware. And it is being decorated with silver linings. The length is 51.8 cm and its height is 21 centimeters. It is being digged by a peasant in Shanxi province. And at that time, back in the year 1959, these wares or these sculptures was held in a huge coffin, and the majority of this coffin belongs to the Xihan era. So that's the reason why we have confirmed that this is actually a ware belongs to the Xihan dynasty. But later on, archaeologists find similar wares in Sichuan and Gansu, which resembles the features of this one. So if you could think that this is a Xihan, whereas I believe it is firm, and if you can date it back to a little earlier, I also believe that it is fine. And I think this is a special ware to drink the alcohols. It is not belongs to the general people. I believe it is belongs to the aristocratical classes, and you can see that on its back there is a special lip to open it. Inside of the bellies, we are normally filled with alcohols. So I believe at the right side there is a round-shaped tube. That is a special tube. When you were trying to, if we want to pour the alcohol down, we can actually uphold the rear legs of these rhinos, and that is how the alcohol is poured out. This is a very exquisite relics, and that is the reason why we are presenting you with 8K technologies. Let's look at the details for this special bronze rhino. In the head and in the bodies of these rhinos, it is being carved with cloud shapes and shaped silver lining and also golden linings. It seems that these rhinos has been listening to something closely. And actually, we could still see the hairs of these rhinos. And in the eyes of these rhinos is being used, being dotted with jade. 2,000 years later, we believe that we could still see the eyelid of this rhino. Generally speaking, it is a strong rhino with very good muscles, and its back is actually very tense. The folds on its skin is demonstrating that it is a mature rhino. I believe that every detail of this rhino is replicating a real rhino. You could still feel that this rhino might breathe in front of you for any second. This is a very impressive craftsmanship, and if we look at the 4 different parts of these rhinos, we could still see the 2 small toys of this rhino. We could see that the ancient craftsman has watched a real rhino for a long time. That is the reason why they have captured the essence of the rhino. And it is demonstrating the spirit of braveness, calmness of a rhino. So I believe it is a very good mix of the spirit of the rhinos and also the outlook of the rhino. The beauty of it is that it is no more a bronzeware to worship God or worship manners or law. After over 2,000 years, we could still see the golden linings of this rhino forming different cloth shapes. It has independent linings, and it is being dotted in the skins and also in the hairs of this rhino. When they are trying to create this special bronze rhino, they have used a very popular technique to overlapping the gold linings and with the silver linings. I believe these overlappings of the patterns between silver linings and also the gold linings is closely related to the technological development in the spring and autumn eras. When they were building up these rhinos, the craftsman is carving all kinds of the lines in the models, and after refining the model, they are also using the features for the silvers and golds. With its elasticities, they have extended it to the hair thin shape. Later on, they have been shaped it and sharpened it with the honing stone. And finally, they are using the choppers and the clean water to sharpen it once again. That's how they make such a exquisite overlapping patterns for silver and gold. So for these rhinos wares, it is quite typical. It belongs to the China's human rhinos. According to the scientist, 3,000 years ago to 7,000 years ago, this rhino is located in the center of China. At a time, rhinos is being abounded in many different corners across China. And in many different relics, we find something belongs to the rhino. In the ancient Chinese calligraphy, they have a record that the king of Shang has used the rhino to hunt. The king of Shang has organized a hunting activity to hunt these rhinos, and for one time they have hunted over 71 different rhinos. And in the warriors' time, they have used the skin of rhino to be their shelf. And when the king of Yue were attacking the Kingdom of Wu, they are also using the skin of rhinos to become their weapons and shield. But because of a long-term hunting activities at the end of the Xihan dynasty, that is around 100 BC in Shanxi, and in the majority of China, rhinos extinct. And for these special rhino wears, it is being dotted with all kinds of the cloud-shaped patterns. Cloud-shaped patterns is a representative pattern in the ancient China's wares, and it is also representing the happiness and the welfare. And it is being firstly designed in the Han Dynasty, and it is being popular in Sui and Tang Dynasty. It is representing the upgradings or bettering of life. You could see this cloud pattern in all kinds of ways. Cloud pattern itself has transitional patterns from shallow to deep, or from deep to shallow, or gradually spreading from the center to the surrounding areas. I believe these transitions of this pattern is very demonstrating or very typical. Why there is a pattern of the cloud pattern is because China has entered into the agricultural civilization in the early stage. During people's day-to-day practice, people believe cloud is a very important indicator for them to figure out the weather. If the weather is good, they might enjoy a good harvest. That is the reason why they are praying for a good harvest. They are revered for the cloud pattern. So with the upgradings of these patterns, with the ever more popular of these patterns, the cloud is becoming a very important demonstrations of the arts in China. That is something I want to introduce you, and that is my second trial. Bronze rhinos with silver and gold linings. The third trial I'm going to introduce you is actually a paint. It is about Nuwa, the mother fairies in China. So I believe that all the Chinese knows about the Nuwa, but we have not discovered some drawings about these fairies. In the year 1982, China and Sweden has formed a Northeast archaeological team, and in that team we have archaeologists and at the time, Mr. Ge Huangbi, a famous archaeologist in China, in the Turufan area of Xinjiang Autonomous Region, he collected this painting. It is drawings of Fuxi and Nuwa. In 1953, it was relocated to China Historic Museum. This special drawing is being painted on silk. It is 144 centimeters height, and it is 110 centimeters width. So the two figures has a human's body with a tail from the snail. From the historic demonstrations, Fuxi and Nuwa should be belonging to the center of the central plateaus in China, but in 150,000 BC, we believe that we have a very good communications between the Chinese cultures and the ethnic cultures. That is the reason why we could see a silk drawing being developed there. The pattern has been spread locally, and the two fairies, the two fairies is being widely severed or respected locally speaking. You could see the facial complexions of Fuxi and Nuwa. These two fairies has a very high nose with a big eyes. We believe that they are being drawn based on the Xinjiang local people's complexions, and this pattern, this silk drawing, is being discovered in coffin, and it is actually used to cover the top of the coffin. And on top of that, there are two golden coins, and I believe that on top of these two golden coins, it has been written there are some of the characteristics of the Tang Dynasty. That is the reason why we have thinking that it belongs to the Tang Dynasty. On the left side of this drawing, it is Fuxi, the fierce, and he has a round face, small eyes, and he has wearing some of the shallow-colored innerwears, and he has also wear a very brown-colored coat with him. So he wears a silk belt, and at the bottom of his coat, there are some of the patterns. On the right side, it is the Nuwa. You could see the facial recognition, facial complexions of Nuwa. So there are some of the red patterns of Nuwa. It is a very popular makeup for females in the Tang Dynasty. She's also wearing some of the shallow inner clothes, and she also wears the coat with quite wide sleeves. And in her clothes, we believe that 3 colors is being combined. So I believe that their 2 bodies are being connected. So we have some of the patterns where the snake tails is being crossed over for 3 times, but for this painting, the snake tails is being crossed over for twice. And so here is actually the sun. Inside of this sun, there is a bird. I believe that this bird has 3 tails, and this 3-tailed bird is representing the sun. And so we could see that at the bottom of this drawing, it is the moon. In the moon, there is a rabbit and also a frog. It is also representing the ancient stories of the moon. So surrounded Fuxi and Nuwa, the 2 fairies, there's a lot of red patterns. In ancient China, according to the fairies, Fuxi and Nuwa are ancestors for the whole Chinese nation, and in Shanghai Jing, among other different ancient Chinese documentaries, we have recorded Fuxi and Nuwa. They have a lot of drawings of a human body and snake tails, and on top of their body it is the sun, and at the bottom of them it is the moon. In the ancient Chinese culture, sun is the male and the moon is actually the female. They are representing yin and yang, the basic 2 essence of the humankind. Fuxi and Nuwa. In the Fuxi, he's holding something for the Gui and Ju. These are the 2 drawing tools. Today we are talking about without Gui and Ju, you are not going to be able to draw square and circle. So they are actually holding Gui and Ju, meaning that they are actually forming the patterns or forming the laws for the humankind. I believe that apart from the National Museum of China, the Forbidden City Museum, British Museum, and the Xinjiang Museum, and in the National Museum of South Korea, they have the collections of Fuxi and Nuwa, but I believe that we have the best drawing so far. It is very exquisite drawings with a story at its back. So there is another story. In the ancient Chinese culture, when people died, when they are entered into the underworld, there also goes with yin and yang. So when Chinese people talks about the separations between life and death, we usually talk about the separation between yin and yang. So Fuxi and Nuwa is actually keeps the world's order. They are also blessed with the deceased. So you could imagine the deceased being sealed in this lonely coffin. Their spirit is wandering across the whole world. Their spirit, so using Fuxi and Nuwa and this drawing pattern, it could connect the world on ground and also underground. No matter we are putting this drawing on ground and underground, it is protecting the deceased people and bless his offsprings into future prosperity. So there is a saying in China, before the formations of heaven and ground, the world was in chaos. So first, Fuxi and Nuwa get married, and they have 4 children, representing the 4 seasons in the year. That is the reason why we think the whole nation comes from Fuxi and Nuwa. But in the biblical descriptions, it also have the description that the Adam and is actually the earliest human beings. So that is actually the story of the Bible. So in these 2 groups of the stories, it is representing the different experience, reflecting the different cultures. But it is a demonstration that we share the same world, and if we can coexist with each other harmoniously, we are all contributing to the humankind. In 1983, UNESCO has used or selected this drawing at its front page. After that, all the different cultures across the world knows the pattern of Fuxi and Nuwa. This is a very exquisite drawing, and it is one of the collections for the National Museum of China. I hoped that you could like it. The 4th collection I'm going to introduce you is a bronze figure for acupuncture. It is an acupuncture figure for the male. It is being formed in 1964. This bronze figure marks a real milestone in the history of medical trainings, and it is a very rare relic of acupuncture. In the year 2007, in February of 2017, President Xi Jinping, when he was visiting Geneva of World Health Organization, he has sent a sculpture based on this bronze sculpture, and our President Xi Jinping named it as the first teaching models for the medical practice. From the archaeological discoveries around in the Han Dynasty, we have developed acupunctures, and in that bronze figures, it have lined all kinds of different acupuncture points. In the Song Dynasty, we started to make this kind of sculptures. At the time, the practice of the TCM was in chaos. The Emperor of Song Renzong ordered that the national and the state hospital created 2 bronze figures for education and training of the physicians. And based on these acupuncture figures, we have several different drawings. That is the standard for the medical training for professional doctors, because it was made in the Tiansheng's era, named after Song Renzong, the emperor. So this kind of bronze figure is called Tiansheng bronze figure. Because of the war and all kinds of turbulence, the Tiansheng bronze figure disappeared in the hands of the Mongolians. Until the Ming Dynasty and the Yuan Dynasty, they could not use it. At that time, the Kublai Khan ordered his craftsmen to recreate such a bronze model. In the Ming Dynasty, they have also replicated several different bronze figures. After several different practices, the names are becoming blurs. In 1964, Ming Yingzong, the emperor at that time, so he also created another bronze figure for the acupuncture point. Because it's a replication of the original bronze figures, there is no record for the original bronze figure, but it is actually a bronze figure from the Zhengtong emperor's era. In the Jiaqing and Wan Li's time, we have replicated such a bronze figure, and it is also being replicated in the Qing dynasty. But actually, Zhengtong's bronze figure is the bronze figure with the longest history. From this acupuncture's bronze sculptures perspectives, although we have the bronze sculptures across all the different dynasties in China, some of these bronze sculptures are not being used in the real acupuncture practice, but actually the Tiansheng bronze figure is totally used for the humankind. It is actually a standard adult male. The sculpture figure is 2.3 meters long. It has a long face and round face, and his two hands is actually facing each other. He has a long eyebrow, representing that he has a long life, and he has a very kind smile on his face. We could see that in this bronze figure, it is a blessed people, and it is actually aligned with the traditional Chinese culture. And on his head, there's a small hair. There's actually small. There's his hair. We can actually remove this part of the hairs internally. We can open this part up, and internally it marks 347 acupuncture points. The size and ratios for these acupunctures is precise. We can open this bronze figure up. Once we have sculpted the names of these acupuncture points on this bronze figure, it is actually representing the high taste of the beauties and the mental craftsmanship. For the medical record before the Song Dynasty, there is actually no dressing, no mentionings of the blood vessels, and also where should the doctors put the acupuncture. If a medical student want to learn from his book, they basically could not have any experience with the written papers, but actually with this bronze figure, it is transforming the abstract into something that they can read and they can touch. This is actually lay a very important foundations for the acupuncture science in China. At the time, the hospital was launching all kinds of examinations for the acupuncture physicians. So they put forward this kind of a bronze figures with the yellow wax covered the whole body. And at that time, they are also pulling some of the waters inside the bodies of this bronze figure with the requirement. The medical student is using the acupuncture needles to point the different positions, and if they are pointing it right, the water inside the bronze figure is going to come out. That is to say, he has made it right. He or she has made it right. So through the actual practice, it will make the medical student understand each one of the acupuncture points. And it also includes the content for the internal organs for the acupunctures. It actually makes acupuncture taskings more standardized and more unified. It is convenient for the taskings and it is very suitable for the high-level qualities of the medical trainings. It is a very important. It is a magnificent development of the engineers. So that is the functions for the acupuncture bronze sculpture. According to the archaeologist, at the end of the new stone eras, our ancestor is using the acupuncture needles to treat all kinds of the disease. And we believe the acupuncture needles can ease the pain in some part of the body. And until the warriors' time, people started to adopt this acupuncture treatment. And in the eras of Xi Han, we have our first medical record or medical book, the medical book of Huangdi. In 1968, there are 6 different acupuncture figures being digged out, and we have digged out 9 different acupuncture needles. So we have this record that every physician have 9 different acupuncture needles. So the needles is being used to point at the different part of the physician, different part of the patient. So this is actually a wide practical acupuncture sculpture representing the values of the traditional Chinese medicine. To be sure, acupuncture is a confirmed treatment therapy of traditional Chinese medicine. This is actually the 4th trials I was introducing to you. So the 5th trials I'm actually introducing you is the double holders of the pottery. So this pottery has a height of 31.4 centimeters. It has no replicas and it is being held. It is being exhibited in the National Museum of China. If you come to the National Museum of China, you could see these swallow-shaped handles potteries. So in this pottery, I think it has several different features. It is representing the height of the royal family's craftsmanship. We all know that for the royal family in Qing Dynasty, it created the Yuan, the summer palace, among which one of the major garden it is being created is during the Qianlong's era. It is a joint effort between the Western craftsman and also the Chinese craftsman. Qianlong Emperor has named it as Haiyan Tang. It is demonstrating Emperor Qianlong's wish for the prosperous nation and well-being for the whole society. This is a demonstration for the collaborations of the cultures, and the Haiyan for this sea swallow pottery, it is being ordered by the Emperor Qianlong, and he himself has been participating in the design for this pottery. He entrusted his officials to monitor the craftsmanship in Jingdezhen. So the craftsman at that time was working day and night after tremendous effort. They came up with this special pottery. To celebrate the 50 years birthday for the Qianlong Emperor, the Jingdezhen has given this two pottery to the Emperor Qianlong to celebrate his 50 years birthday, and Emperor Qianlong has placed the two potteries in his Haiyantang. In 1986, the joint armies of Britain and France invaded Summer Palace and they burned everything. But luckily, this two pottery has survived. And several years later, the Empress Cixi decided to restore the Haiyantang to use this area to host the ambassadors and their ladies. So that is real reason why Empress Cixi has placed it in the second Haiyantang after the Xinhai Revolution. This pottery is being spreaded and is actually being lost from the royal family. And in 1952, it is being collected by the National Museum of China. In the Qing dynasty, Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong has a very stable political situations, and their economy was a boom. After the three emperors' effort, the whole society stabilized. The three generations of the emperors, they values the development of the potteries. And among the three generations, Emperor Qianlong is actually an emperor with an artistic taste. He has developed the craftsmanship for ceramics further. In the Qianlong era, the ceramics or potteries they are made is actually a colorful pottery. It is a very complicated craftsmanship. It included Qinghua, Youli Hong, the blue and red potteries, and also the red potteries. And I believe this sea swallow pottery includes several different craftsmanships, for example, sculpturings and also drawings and gold linings. If there's any mistake in every single round, it might not be possible for us to see this ceramics. I believe that when we were making some of the ceramics, it needs 1200 degrees centigrade to burst it up. So once we finish it, it needs several rounds of the craftsmanship. Once there's something goes wrong with this pottery, throughout the whole body, it has a very stone-like and features. One thing standing out is that it is being combined by the titanium and its coloring topplings. That is the reason why there is actually no cracks on top of these ceramics. On the surface of that, there are two materials: the gold colors and at the body of this ceramic. It is using the glass-based white as an important coloring material. On the surface of that, there are multiple types of the dyes, and they are using all kinds of the sculptures and adding colors on top of the colors. It is very decorative. Generally speaking, it has a very bright color, very exquisite.
海晏和星尊呢，整体造型端庄和顺，装饰的雍容典雅。
This ceramic is a pottery with revere and respect. It marks the heights of the Qianlong's ceramic. It is of the national treasures. It has an open upper part with a very round middle part at its upper part, and in the middle part we have some of the golden patterns. It has the Jiaoyan pattern, Ruyi pattern, among other different patterns. At the bottom of it, we have drawn some of the locus it makes this ceramic more abstract. So at its two shoulders, there are two white sea swallows as the earrings for this pottery. So I could see that these two flying sea swallows is what we call this sea swallow pottery. So the patterns is representing the beauties of that era. And it's actually a reflection of Emperor Qianlong's taste, and I think it's based on the personal taste of Qianlong Emperor. He likes exquisite patterns. At the time, the demonstrations is very unique. We are boosted with all kinds of plants, human patterns, and he is using all kinds of plants and animals to express his wishes for goodness. So one important feature for the ceramic in the Qing dynasty is that for every single pattern, it has a meaning. If there is a meaning for this single pattern, it must means blessing for each one, for each people. So at the very beginnings of the ceramics development, it is made of a very rare craftsmanship, but at the eras of the Qianlong's, in the Qianlong Emperor's era, for one part, the emperor has collected a vast amount of the ceramics to celebrate the royal prosperity. For another part, it has the patterns including the vegetables and fruits. The patterns includes Ru Yi, and also Lucas patterns. For all of these patterns, it is the traditional patterns of the Chinese culture. Let's look at this pottery from the upward to the bottom. At the top of it, it is using the leaves of the bananas, and these leaves of the bananas means a joint effort of all ethnic group. At the shoulders of this ceramic, it has the patterns of the Ru Yi. It means everything will go with your will. And at the bottom of these ceramics, it has the patterns of the Lucas and the Ponium. It means prosperity and future development. In the two areas of this ceramic, there are two sea swallows. So for the sea swallows, it means peace at all the seas. The Lucas and the sea swallows are the two important patterns. For one part, it is representing the Yellow Sea in the Yellow River in China. In ancient China, the Yellow River flooded the relevant areas, wreaking havoc across the whole country. That is the reason why every people were praying for the safety or the normal operations of the Yellow River. These different patterns are the major blessings for these ceramics. That is the reason why we think that sea swallows is actually at its core. And this saying is actually coming from a poem in the Tang Dynasty. That is to say, the river is clean and it runs safely. So this exquisite ceramic is representing Emperor Qianlong's wish for the safety and long-lasting dynasty. Dear friends, these are my favorite at National Museum of China. I believe you remember our equal vessels, and I still believe that you have been impressed by the ceramics. I heard that some of you left. There are so many viewers. So I have a question for all of you. There are several different patterns in the ceramics. You have the Lucas, you have the ponions, and you also have the sea swallows. So what does this mean? Please answer our questions in these feedback platforms. If you have answered it correctly, we can give you a small gift from the National Museum of China. We have also received a lot of questions from the viewers. We have selected several different questions. To your concern, let's read these questions. The first question. It is a very good selection. I want to fly to Beijing and to visit the National Museum of Beijing. Can you recommend me some of the exhibitions right now? Welcome to National Museum of China. I mentioned the National Museum of China is blessed with a quite enriching collections. It has over 6,000 world national class craftsmen, and I believe that of the most important. Recently, we have the road of regeneration. And National Museum of China is blessed with all kinds of cultural relics. The special exhibitions of the Road to Rejuvenation is a special exhibitions of the modern China and ancient China. It has a lot of feedback from the German ambassadors and also the Chinese ambassadors. It has been once visited by the German ambassador and also the Chinese ambassadors. So I believe the former chancellor of German, German chancellor, has visited the National Museum, and he told me that this is a very unique exhibition, and this is also a quite unique. This is also a very unique exhibition. So if you come to the National Museum of China, I highly recommend you to go to the road to rejuvenations. We also have the special Chinese cultural relics exhibitions. These exhibitions included the special exhibitions for the Buddha sculptures, the jade, and also the ancient paintings and calligraphies. I believe that for each one of the exhibitions, you could grab the histories from the ancient times to the modern times. And we have also included the themed different exhibitions, and it actually includes some of the aesthetic beautiful cultural relics. For the recent few years, we have upheld some of the temporary exhibitions, and these temporary exhibitions is of high values. This year, starting from July to after today, we have came up with the 11 special exhibitions. I cannot give you a recommendation on which one is the best, but I think there are some of the rare exhibitions. For example, the musical instrument exhibitions in the ancient China, and also the bronze ware exhibition in China. Among the exhibition, we have some of the bronze with the calligraphy of China, the word of China itself being encrypted. It has the bronze wares, and it is also demonstrating the Mingwen, ancient Chinese cultures. We have the folk cultures from Shandong province. We also have the exhibitions for the anti-pandemic effort. I believe that with special and enriching exhibitions, and it is actually demonstrating the features of the Chinese culture comprehensively. That is the reason why China's museum attracts a lot of foreign viewers, and is actually one of the most popular museums across the world. And we are the top 2 museum in the year 2019. This is the first question. Let me read the second question. Thank you very much for the joint effort of CCTV and National Museum of China. The overlapping patterns of the gold and silver is exquisite. Can you give me more introduction to these overlapping patterns of silver and gold? I believe that it is closely related to the productivities at the warrior time in China. During the production, at the very surface of that ware, the craftsmen are sculpting these different patterns in the bronze ware, and then they use more precise tools to make it into more details. Later on, they are using the features for extensive features of silver and gold to encrypt the silver and gold inside of it. Later on, they sharpen it to prune it. And finally, using the chalks plus adding the water into the chalks, they have heated this pattern once again to make it shining. I'm not a craftsman and I'm not an expert in this field. I suggest you to read more paper. I believe that you will have a quite satisfying answer. The third question is about the COVID-19 pandemic. It's creating a lot of shock. It's creating a lot of damage to the museum. So what kind of measures did the China National Museum adopt? Yes, the world of the museums is facing a very strong challenges. We understand 90% of the museums in the world have shut down, cut off the personal account. The National Museum of China, we have closed ourselves for 100 days and we open up to the general public at the 1st in May. Currently, we are still adopting an appointment system and we have controlled the total audience number to 3,000 to 5,000. At the weekend, we can open up to 8,000 people. In the year 2019, we welcomed and hosted around 9 million people. So that is the reason why we believe 8,000 visitors per year, 8,000 visitors per day cannot satisfy the demand of the general public. That is the reason why we have built our cloud-based museum, and we have started with museum exhibition every day. There are 150 million viewers in the web. We have also opened up the courses in the National Museum's platform. I remembered Mr. Sun Yi, who's an archaeologist and a historian. He's over 90 years old, but he has given a lecture for over 60 minutes. I believe that in our official website, you can drag the 3D models to observe the craftsmanship at every point. We have also created the cloud exhibitions of China aviation and aerospace achievements. We have also created several different live streaming activities to fully develop the features to let the viewers, let the audience could enjoy and learn online. So during these new normals of the COVID-19, it becomes a very important model for us to uphold this online museum. I also believe the National Museum Online is not only going to satisfy the demand for temporary, but it is also a very good demonstration for President Xi Jinping's idea of combining the online and offline strategies, and it is National Museum's effort in the areas of the 5G, big data, augmented reinforcement and also the artificial intelligence. We believe this is a trail that we have blazed. Moving forward, we are going to deepen our top-level design, invest further in the cloud-based National Museum by building a smarter National Museum. We are going to create a new battlefield. Thank you very much for the audience's support to today's event. Come to the National Museum of China. Understand China. I welcome all of you to come to the National Museum of China. I also welcome you to contribute your suggestions through the official website of China's National Museum. Dear friends, goodbye.